and a very warm welcome to your news package for this evening. Making headlines, Tonga joins other countries in marking World Food Day today. Prime Minister Lord Divano arrives at Whamotu International Airport this afternoon, and Ministry of Health receives its first ever CT scanner for the kingdom. These and more stories later on in this bulletin, together with the latest from around the region, sports, world news, and the latest weather. I'm Fatai Whenga with your news for tonight. His Serene Highness Prince Tupelehake calls on the government to re-look at Tonga's Act, which requires fruit-bearing trees to be planted on tax allotments. His Serene Highness made the appeal as guest of honour at an event to mark World Food Day today. The theme is Sustainable Food Systems for Food Security and Nutrition. Sinladu will stay and fold this report.
Speaking from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food, Forestry and Fisheries premises at Tauliki, His Serene Highness Prince Tuipelehake says Tonga's first monarch, King George I, visited Australia and was surprised to see some places where people queue for food. This initiated food security for Tonga.
And that is the main reason why, when he returned back to Tonga, to make a policy of the first government of food security, because he noticed that food security is national security. Our food security, which is memorized, is run all over the world from FAO, but in our case, it's a lot deeper than that. After a couple of decades, the government also made an act which was to, for every api or tax allotment, they have to plant a certain amount of fruit trees and various other trees. That seems to be lapsed as the years went by with new short-term cash crops. But I think it's a policy acting Prime Minister that the government should look at for the longer term food security of this country.
In a speech from the acting Prime Minister, Honourable Samuel Vaipulu, he passed on a message from the Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organisation, or FAO.
Today, we can celebrate a new forwarding number of people who are suffering from hunger. In 2012, we estimated that 870 million people were undernourished. This year, the number fell to about 840 million. That means that almost 30 million fewer people hungry in the world. This is very encouraging, but we must not forget that 12% of the population still suffers from hunger in the 21st century. That means 1 in every 8 human beings. So while we celebrate the following hunger, we must push harder. The result of the past 2 years showed that we can achieve the Millennium Development Goal to reduce by half the prevalence of hunger between 1990 and 2050.
A display of local food crops, fruits and other items were portrayed at the program. Prizes were awarded to the best stalls. The Chief Executive Officer of the Ministry, Losaline Maasi, welcomed the guest of honor and the gathering, emphasizing the importance to work closely together to secure a sustainable food system. During the program, His Serene Highness unveiled the new three-phase PowerPoint stations. World Food Day was established to sustain people's food needs and to reduce the number of hungry population worldwide. Today also marks the establishment of the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO.
His Serene Highness Prince Tuipelehake and the acting Prime Minister of Tonga, Honourable Samuel Vaipulu, and foreign diplomats touring the sites to look at the stalls, which was prepared by related sectors of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food, Fisheries and Forestry, and other related sectors from the community. Reporting for Television Tonga News, I'm Sinilato.
The Prime Minister of Tonga, Lord Duvernois, will arrive at the Whamato International Airport tonight. He is accompanied by the Acting Chief Secretary and Acting Secretary to Cabinet, Alok Palu. The Prime Minister returns after attending the 68th meeting of the United Nations. He is in a healthy condition after the Prime Minister's office revealed that he had suffered a minor stroke in New York. Speaking to Radio and Television Tonga News, a reliable source says the Prime Minister did not suffer from a mild stroke. Instead, he suffered a minor blockage of blood to his heart. He received proper treatment and recovered well. Reports say he's in good health, walking and talking as usual, not needing the use of a wheelchair with no signs of suffering from a stroke. The Prime Minister's office says the Acting Prime Minister, Sami Vaipulu, will welcome back the Prime Minister, Lord Duvernois, at Whamato Airport. From Parliament, allegations have been made over the operations of Nautilus Minerals Tonga, which is believed to be operating illegally. The People's Representative Number 8, Sione Taione, claims that the Nautilus company is operating under the Prime Minister's office, which is not lawful. However, the Honourable Minister of Land, Survey, Climate Change, Environment and Natural Resources, Lord Ma'afu, corrected the claim made by Taione, saying that everything the company is doing, which includes obtaining a license, was made in a transparent and legal manner. Taione claims that a shareholder in the international company is Her Royal Highness Princess Bilolevu Tuita. He added that he was surprised to find the company is operating under the management of the Prime Minister's office and wondered why. The MP added that the company's research in Tonga since 2008 has not been successful and has been given an extension of 4 to 5 years to continue its operations. However, the Honourable Minister of Land and Survey, Lord Ma'afu, interrupted his statement, confirming that the company is not managed nor controlled by the Prime Minister's office, although its licensed and administered and processed was by the Prime Minister's office. The Acting Prime Minister, Honourable Sami Vaipulu, also reconfirmed Lord Ma'afu's response, saying that this international company has no connection whatsoever with the PM's office. During the deliberation, the Honourable Justice Minister Clive Atwood told Taione to stop misleading the public. The Ministry of Health has received its first ever CT scanner for the Kingdom. The computerised topology scanner will be able to scan and identify a majority of the disease or illnesses that people obtained. The machine is worth around $1 million donated by the People's Republic of China. A special ceremony was held this morning at Viola Hospital to mark the handover of the computerized topology or the CT scanner. Linda Filet reports.
The CT scanner is an equipment designed to identify several types of disease, including cancer and tumor, to name a few. It is one of the costly equipments at Viola. In a remarks from the Honourable Minister of Health, Lord Tui Afitu, he thanks the Chinese counterpart for this generous assistance. It is a great pleasure receiving this donation, and we are glad knowing that it will upgrade the standard of our work at the hospital. We are the first in the developing countries to receive such equipment, which has the particular high grade that it can identify the disease. This donation from the People's Republic of China is worth more than $1 million per anga. They have also built a house for the CT scanner and provide a specialist to teach the staff on how to operate this new machine. Meanwhile, scholarship will be provided for this particular field. In the meantime, Chinese Ambassador to Tonga, His Excellency Weng Donghua, says China prioritizes health issues in the kingdom and they will continue to provide similar assistance in the future.
The main purpose of the donation of the CT scanner to Tonga is to help the Tongan people because we heard before we had this CT scanner that Tonga didn't have one. And the people who needed such medical service, especially the CT scan, had to had to travel overseas, either to Australia or New Zealand for their CT scan or checkup, and they had to spend a lot of money on the way, on the accommodation, and the most important is they could have lost some time for a better diagnosis of the disease they suffer.
A local radiologist, Dr. Ana Kauola, says the equipment is very useful as it can identify the right pathologist or disease a person is suffering from, and the proper treatment can be given to them.
What it does, it scans the body using X-ray, which is what we use to take chest X-rays and whatnot, and then it brings pictures or images of the body, whichever part of the body that you want to X-ray. It be the head, brain, the chest, the abdomen, legs, any part of the body can be CT'd, and it can tell us pathology when we see it. Pathology is what's wrong with you.
She says this is a great improvement for the Ministry of Health.
Any disease, especially tumors, cancers, CT scan is very good for it. It picks up a lot of tumors, especially in the head. Before we had the CT scanner, we used to just look at the patient, what he presents with, if he's got and other signs to tell us, and then we'll think, oh, maybe he's got a brain tumor. Sometimes we get to send the patients over to New Zealand only to be told that it's too far, so that's just a waste of money. Whereas now, we think that someone may have a brain tumor, put them in the CT scanner, and of course it tells us this is a brain tumor.
Furthermore, a container load of medical equipment was donated by the Republic of China to the Health Ministry. The event was attended by the Health Director, Dr. Siale Kauola, Lord Tangyofwa Nukonuka, doctors, among others. Linda Filiai for Television Tonga News.
From the Magistrate Court today, a 29-year-old man has been charged for manslaughter with negligence. Brian Vea of Kolomotua appeared at Moa Magistrate Court in front of the magistrate Similoni Tokalau. He's alleged of the death of Sasiwa Magamoyafita Maua of Halaleva. The deceased was a 13-year-old boy who was a student of Tupou College at the time. It was alleged that the driver, Brian Vea, was sleepy while driving a 3-ton truck full of coconut and firewood. This caused the vehicle to sway, causing Sasiwa Maua, who was at the back of the truck, to fall off the vehicle. He sustained head injuries, which eventually led to his death. The incident occurred in front of the Agricultural Office at Alakifonua. The truck was on its way from Utoa heading to Halaleva. Brian Vea will reappear in the same court this month on the 30th with his legal counsel. An Australian cruise ship, Pacific Pearl, docked at Vuna Wharf this morning after visiting Vava'u yesterday. It brought more than 2,000 passengers and crew members. Vuna Wharf is the fourth port of the 16-day cruise of the Pacific Pearl. Anasi Falekana tells you more.
Here are some of the passengers on board the Pacific Pearl as they walked through Nuku'alofa on their one-day visit. The manager of the Pacific Forum Line, La Tului, which is an agent for the visiting cruise ship, says this is not the first time for the Pacific Pearl to visit Nuku'alofa, but it's the first time to dock at the newly constructed Vuna Wharf. Most of the passengers are Australians, but I am so happy that some of the passengers are also Tongans who live in Australia, and they are happy to be here today. One Tongan couple on board the cruise ship Heina and Otuamu'a Tu'ifua were happy to come to Tonga. This is our first time on a cruise ship and we're so happy. It's such a great experience. Another passenger from Queensland, Sam Hewitt, also enjoys the trip.
Arrived there yesterday. I've been through most of the Pacific Islands over the last 20 years. It is the best that I've found so far, but I'm assuming that it's even better here.
The Pacific Pearl departs Tonga this afternoon for Suva, Fiji. For Television Tonga News, I'm Anasi Faleka'ono.
And that's the local news. Pacific is up next.